Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. So, episode 5, In the Name of the Mother, is out, and I'm still trying to process what I just watched. This is the episode where a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms stops being a charming road trip and reminds us that we're still in George R.R. Martin's world. The one where honor gets you killed, where victory feels hollow, and where a single tragic moment echoes for generations. Before we dive deep, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our finale breakdown next week. And obviously, massive spoiler warning for episode 5. We're going to talk about everything, the flashbacks, the battle, that devastating death, and all the connections to Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon that make this episode so much more than just a fight in the mud. Let's jump in. The flashback. Who is Dunk really? So the episode opens and we're not on the battlefield. We're in the middle of chaos, but a different kind. The Trial of Seven starts, the horns blow, the knights charge, and then Dunk gets absolutely wrecked. First thing he does? Gets a spear in the guts and gets knocked off his horse. He's unconscious. And while he's out cold, the show takes us somewhere else entirely. We flash back to young Dunk, played by Bamber Todd, scavenging on a battlefield with his childhood friend Rafe, played by Chloe Leah from Dune Prophecy. They're picking through corpses, looking for anything valuable, coins, armor, anything to sell. And here's where the show gives us our first major history lesson. Rafe says something crucial. The war is over. The Black Dragon's dead. This is our first real on-screen look at the aftermath of the First Blackfire Rebellion, a civil war that happened about 13 years before the events of Ashford. Let me break this down because it's going to be important later when we talk about connections. The Black Dragon is Daemon Blackfire, the legitimized bastard son of King Aegon IV Targaryen. On his deathbed, Aegon IV legitimized all his bastards, a move that basically handed his descendants a loaded weapon and said, "Here, fight over this." Daemon took the Targaryen sword Blackfire, the same sword Aegon the Conqueror used, and decided that made him the rightful king. His sigil was a black dragon on a red field, the inverse of the Targaryen sigil. The war ended at the Battle of Redgrass Field, which Egg actually sang about back in episode 3. Daemon and his twin sons died, but the rebellion survivors fled across the narrow sea to the free cities, and they kept plotting. This isn't the last we'll hear of the Blackfires, trust me. Anyway, young Dunk and Rafe are from Flea Bottom, the worst slum in King's Landing. They're saving up to buy passage to the free cities, Essos, to escape the poverty and death around them. But Rafe is the practical one. She's hardened. She keeps telling Dunk that his mother, who disappeared years ago, isn't coming back. She's trying to make him face reality. There's a brutal scene where a city watchman harasses them, and Rafe pickpockets him, multiple times. The third time, he catches her. And in one horrifying moment, he slits her throat right there on the street. Dunk holds her as she dies. That dream of escaping together, of a new life in the free cities, dies right there in the mud of Flea Bottom. And then, out of a tavern, stumbles a drunk knight. It's Ser Arlan of Pennytree. He's vomiting, barely standing, but when he sees the watchman attacking a kid, he draws his sword and cuts them down. One watchman's head literally rolls into a pig trough. This is Dunk's first encounter with the man who will define his life. But here's the thing, the show doesn't romanticize this. Young Dunk follows Ser Arlan for miles with no food or shelter, and Arlan mostly ignores him, drinks too much, rants in the woods. This isn't a heartwarming mentor story. It's a story of survival, of a kid latching onto the only lifeline he has because the alternative is starvation. Arlan's treatment of Dunk borders on neglect, maybe even Stockholm Syndrome territory. But when Arlan finally acknowledges the boy and offers him water, he gives him 2 words that become the episode's mantra. Get up. This flashback isn't just filler. Showrunner Ira Parker knew it would frustrate some viewers. He literally said, "I hate that I've had to do a flashback at this point when everybody just wants the battle." But he did it anyway because it's answering the question the whole season has been asking. Where does Dunk's stubborn, unshakable sense of honor come from? It comes from watching his best friend die for a few coins. It comes from following a flawed, broken man across the countryside because that man represented the idea of knighthood, protecting the innocent, even when you're drunk and puking. Dunk's honor isn't theoretical, it's forged in trauma.
The Trial of Seven. Chaos in the Mud. Now, after about 20 minutes of flashback, we snap back to the present. Dunk is unconscious on the field. The trial has already started, and he got knocked off his horse immediately. Showrunner Ira Parker explained this choice. Because we're solely in Dunk's poov, I wanted everybody to feel what it's like to put on that armor, to put on that helmet. Dunk is not going to be good at this. First thing he does is get a spear in the guts and get knocked off his horse. This isn't a glorious battle, it's chaos. And the way they filmed this is genius. The camera gives us what they called helmet cam, shots from inside Dunk's helm, with muffled sound, heavy breathing, the claustrophobia of being trapped in metal while death swirls around you. You can't see clearly, you can't hear clearly, you just feel the impact of every blow.
Director Owen Harris explained the thinking behind this. It just does something very interesting in terms of the claustrophobia of being under attack, being someone who is at the receiving end of someone that's trying to kill him. And once you go inside that helm, as well as the sound effects, the breathing, the points of the increased heartbeat, you feel like you're right in there with him. While Dunk is unconscious, the battle rages. Let's break down the teams quickly because there's a lot of moving parts. Team Dunk, Sir Duncan the Tall, our boy. Prince Baelor, Breakspear, Targaryen, the Hand of the King, heir to the Iron Throne. Sir Lionel, the Laughing Storm, Baratheon, future Lord of Storm's End. Sir Robin Riceling, the One-Eyed Madman. Sir Humphrey Harding, seeking revenge for his horse. Sir Humphrey Beesbury, Harding's brother by marriage. Raymond Fossaway, newly knighted on the spot after his cousin's betrayal. Team Aerion, Prince Aerion, Brightflame, Targaryen. Prince Maekar Targaryen, Aerion's father, Egg's dad. Prince Daeron Targaryen, the drunk, Aerion's brother. Sir Stephen Fossaway, the traitor who switched sides for a lordship. 3 Kingsguard, Sir Donal of Duskendale, Sir Roland Crakehall, and Sir Willem Wilde. The battle is pure carnage. Knights go down immediately. Sir Humphrey Beesbury is killed. Sir Humphrey Harding is mortally wounded. On the other side, Prince Daeron, true to his promise to Dunk from last episode, takes an early hit and yields. He's out. Peter Claffey, who plays Dunk, said the fight reflects a shift from knightly combat to survival. Quoting the source material, he described the turning point as, "This is not Sir Duncan the Tall here. This is Dunk from Flea Bottom." All those years of scrapping in the streets, all that trauma and grit come flooding back. Finn Bennett, who plays Aerion, revealed that filming was even more chaotic than it looks on screen. Rotting fruit from set dressing attracted wasps everywhere, and the fake blood was made with sugary syrup, so they were fighting insects while trying to film a medieval battle. Bennett recalled being dragged through the mud, on like a pulley, during filming. Director Owen Harris encouraged both actors to show fatigue between exchanges, with Bennett saying, "What's really going to sell this moment is how tired you both are." The death that changes everything. Now we get to the moment that book readers have been dreading and that show viewers probably didn't see coming. And here's where I need to be absolutely precise because this scene is devastating. After the battle ends, with Aerion yielding and the trial concluded, everyone assumes the worst is over. Dunk is badly wounded, lying in the stables or some makeshift medical area. And then, Prince Baelor walks in under his own power. He's alive, he's talking, he's even offering help. Let me paint you the actual scene because it's so much more heartbreaking than what I described before. Dunk is lying there, barely conscious, when Baelor approaches. He tells Dunk, "I need good men, Sir Duncan. The realm." Dunk, even in his wounded state, struggles to his knees and pledges himself to the future king. It's a beautiful moment of recognition, a hedge knight swearing fealty to the heir of the Iron Throne, and the prince acknowledging his worth. But then Baelor steps back and mentions that his fingers feel strange. "Visors cracked. My fingers feel like wood," he murmurs. He asks Raymond Fossaway and the blacksmith Steely Pate to help him remove his helm. And he casually mentions, almost proudly, "My brother's mace, most like. He's strong." Here's where the horror sets in. When they lift the helmet off, we see it. The back of his skull is completely shattered. The helmet was literally the only thing holding his head together. The moment it's removed, he staggers, turns, and collapses backward into Dunk's arms.
And Dunk just holds him, repeating over and over, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." But Baelor never responds. He never blinks. He's gone. Here's an additional tragic detail that the show includes. In the books, and implied in the show, Baelor didn't bring his own armor to Ashford because he never intended to compete. To fight for Dunk, he had to borrow armor from his teenage son, Prince Baelor. The helmet wasn't properly fitted. If he'd been wearing his own armor, properly sized to his head, that blow from Maekar's mace might not have killed him. A father, borrowing his son's armor to fight for justice, dies because of it. Actor Bertie Carvel, who plays Baelor, revealed in interviews that the prince harbored no anger toward his brother. Even in his final moments, Baelor spoke admiringly of Maekar's strength. Showrunner Ira Parker explained Baelor's motivation in an interview. "Virtue untested is no virtue at all." Baelor spent his whole life being told he was honorable, that he'd be the greatest king since Aegon the Conqueror. This moment was his test. He didn't have to fight. No one asked him to. But he demanded it of himself because he needed to prove he was the man everyone said he was. And it killed him.
Bertie Carvel added something beautiful about filming the scene. He said death scenes are actually freeing as an actor because there's no hiding from the fact that you're pretending. Most actors are terrified of people finding you out, that you're not who you say you are. And so I find death scenes great because it's very obviously acting, and we still, if it's any good, believe it. The heir to the Iron Throne, the best hope for the Targaryen dynasty, dies in the arms of a hedge knight in the middle of a muddy field, not during the glorious battle, but after, quietly, while discussing the future of the realm. That's the tragedy. That's the gut punch. The prophecy connection, Daeron's dream. Now, here's where the show's foreshadowing pays off in a devastating way. Back in episode 4, Baelor's nephew Daeron, the drunk brother, revealed he has dragon dreams, like Helena in House of the Dragon. He told Dunk about a vision. A massive dragon fell on top of Dunk, but Dunk was alive and the dragon was dead. He described it as having wings so large they could cover this meadow. At the time, with all the Targaryens involved in the trial, no one could guess which dragon it meant. Now we know. Baelor Breakspear, the dragon who fell defending Dunk, is dead, and Dunk is alive, cradling him in his arms. The prophecy wasn't just a spooky moment, it was a spoiler for this exact tragedy. This is classic George R.R. Martin storytelling. Prophecies in this world are never straightforward. They're always misinterpreted until it's too late. Daeron saw a dead dragon and assumed it was about Dunk being crushed. But the dragon was Baelor, and the crushing was metaphorical. The weight of his death on Dunk's conscience, on the realm, on history itself. The aftermath, an empty victory. The aftermath is where the episode really lands its punch. The casualties are counted. Sir Humphrey Beesbury is dead. Sir Humphrey Harding dies of his wounds, and Prince Baelor Targaryen, the heir to the Iron Throne, is dead. Dunk, in his moment of victory, has essentially altered the course of Westerosi history, and not for the better. Let's trace the line of succession now, because this is where the Game of Thrones connections become crystal clear. Baelor was the eldest son of King Daeron II. With him gone, the crown passes next to his son Valar. But Valar, along with his brother Mataris, will die in the Great Spring Sickness a few years later. That means the throne eventually goes to Baelor's younger brother, Maekar, the very man whose accidental blow killed him. Maekar becomes king, but he's a different kind of ruler, stern, rigid, less beloved. Then Maekar dies, and after some succession chaos, the crown passes to his youngest son, Aegon V Targaryen, our egg. Aegon the Unlikely. And from Aegon V, the line continues to his son Jaehaerys II, then to Jaehaerys' son, Aerys II, the Mad King. The king whose paranoia and cruelty spark Robert's rebellion. The king who is killed by Jaime Lannister. The king whose children, Rhaegar, Viserys, Daenerys, carry the Targaryen legacy into fire and blood. As the Rap put it, Baelor's death not only leads to his brothers Aerys I and Maekar taking the Iron Throne instead of him, but it also allows House Targaryen's position to be further weakened without their dragons, and for the Mad King himself to oversee their family's destruction in Westeros. Consequently, while Dunk may believe himself insignificant right now, Baelor's decision to defend him is one of the most significant moments in Westeros' history.
So this one death in the mud at Ashford, this tragic accident caused by a brother's mace, sets in motion the chain of events that leads to the fall of the Targaryen dynasty. If Baelor had lived, if he had become king, would there have been a Mad King? Would there have been a rebellion? Would Rhaegar have been born at all? We'll never know, but the show is asking us to think about it. The Brienne connection, an Easter egg for the ages. Now, here's something that might have slipped past you if you blinked. Remember the flashback scene with young Dunk and Rafe walking down that road? Showrunner Ira Parker confirmed to Business Insider that this was filmed on the exact same road in Belfast that was used for Brienne of Tarth's journey in Game of Thrones. Same road, same trees, same everything. No attention drawn to it, but for deep fans, it's a beautiful nod to the connection between Dunk and his most famous descendant. Because yes, George R.R. Martin confirmed back in 2016 that Brienne of Tarth is descended from Sir Duncan the Tall. How exactly? That's a mystery. Dunk, as Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, swore an oath not to marry or father children. So somewhere along the line, there's a story there, probably involving a lady of House Tarth that we haven't been told yet. But the parallels are unmistakable.
Both are towering figures, physically imposing. Both are driven by an unshakable sense of honor. Both struggle to be taken seriously in a world that judges them by their appearance and birth. Both find unlikely allies who believe in them. And both end up in the White Book, the Book of Brothers, with their deeds recorded for history. In Game of Thrones Season 4, Joffrey flips through the book and notes, "Sir Duncan the Tall, 4 pages for Sir Duncan. He must have been quite a man." And Jaime replies, "So they say." Now we're watching those 4 pages being written. And in Brienne's final scene in Game of Thrones, she's writing in that same book, recording the deeds of new knights, carrying on her ancestors' legacy. This Easter egg isn't just a cool detail. It's a thesis statement about legacy, about how honor echoes through generations. Parker said he liked the idea of distant relatives crossing paths generations apart. And it works beautifully. What's next for Dunk and Egg? So where does this leave our boys? Dunk is a free man, proven innocent by the trial. But he's also a man who watched a great hero die because of him. He carries that weight now. Egg has watched his monstrous brother be humiliated, but also watched his family tear itself apart. His father, Maekar, is shattered by what he did to Baelor. His brother Aerion is disgraced. And what happens to Aerion? In the books, and presumably in the show, Prince Maekar sends him away, exiles him across the Narrow Sea to the free city of Lys. Maybe time away will cool his madness. Spoiler, it won't. Aerion eventually dies after drinking wildfire, thinking it would transform him into a literal dragon. Classic Targaryen madness. Prince Maekar, burdened by grief and guilt, looks at this giant, honest knight and his clever, headstrong son. He sees something there. He sees that Egg might actually learn something true out in the world, traveling with a man who embodies the ideals Baelor died for. So he gives his blessing. Egg, Prince Aegon Targaryen, can continue as Dunk's squire. Not as a secret runaway, but with his father's permission. The road ahead is long. They'll travel all across Westeros, getting into adventures, righting wrongs where they can. They'll meet new friends and new enemies. They'll grow together. And eventually, decades from now, Dunk will become Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. And Egg will become King Aegon V, Aegon the Unlikely. And they'll be together at the end, at Summerhall, in the fire. The prevailing theory is that Egg started the fire at Summerhall in a failed attempt to hatch dragon eggs. Some fans even believe that Egg intended to kill himself and his descendants in a blood magic sacrifice. After all, it's often said in Game of Thrones that only death can pay for life, and there is a special kind of power in a king's blood. My brothers dreamed of dragons, Maester Aemon says in the original book series, and the dreams killed them, every one. But that's a tragedy for another season. In the Name of the Mother is the episode where a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms stops being a cozy road trip and becomes a Game of Thrones story. It's about the cost of honor. It's about how doing the right thing can get you killed. It's about how victory can feel like defeat. The flashback structure might have annoyed some viewers who just wanted to see the battle. Showrunner Ira Parker knew it would be polarizing. He literally said, "It's gonna displease some people."
But I think it was necessary. We needed to understand where Dunk comes from, to understand why he keeps fighting. We needed to see Rafe die, to understand why he can't let injustice stand. We needed to see him follow a flawed knight into the wilderness, to understand why he believes in knighthood at all. And we needed to see Baelor die, to understand that this world doesn't reward good men. It grinds them up and moves on. The realm lost its best hope in that muddy field, and Dunk, the man who inspired Baelor to take that risk, has to live with that. But he also has to live for that, for the ideal Baelor represented, for the honor that got him killed. That's what get up means. You get knocked down, you lose people you love, you watch good men die, and you get up anyway. Because that's what knights do. That's what Dunk from Flea Bottom learned to do. The finale is next week, the morrow, the day after. We'll see our boys hit the road, leaving Ashford behind, carrying the weight of everything that happened, and starting their real journey together. What did you think? Was Baelor's death too cruel? Did the flashbacks work for you? And did you catch the Brienne Easter egg? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more. I'll see you next week for the season finale. Until then, friends, get up.